So I just finished reading God Emperor of Dune. It's the fourth book in the Dune series, and I enjoyed it. So let's talk about it more. This is my book review. Let's get into it. God Emperor of Dune is about Leto II, who is Paul Atreides' son, who has become the God Emperor. This is a very, in some ways, strange book because a lot of it is written about and sort of through the perspective of someone who once was fully human and then has become a kind of God, messiah figure through his prescient ability to see the future. But he also has like all of the memories and personalities of his ancestors living inside of him, and which is weird. And then he has become, transformed into, a sandworm basically, or a kind of half sandworm, half man thing. And so he's this very not quite human character, but has all of these interesting qualities about him. And also the story takes place 3,500 years after the previous book, and he's still alive because he's a sandworm and they can apparently live for a super long time. So you get to see these very strange changes happen, and it makes for a very interesting book. Now, one thing that makes Dune really fun and really awesome is there's drama, there's intrigue, there's all these political machinations. It's kind of everything you'd expect about running a huge empire, and you have politics and people and personalities and attempts on lives and all of that. So that's all, fun and exciting. But at the same time, one thing that Frank Herbert does in these books is he kind of has this structure to them where he puts you, the reader, right at the edge of some big change that's about to happen. So it puts you kind of right at this pivotal moment where stuff's about to go down. But it skips 3,500 years, so what happened in between. And the book gives you little bits of backstory, but it's a very interesting sort of world building approach because it's not necessarily the this happened and this happened and this happened. It's there's a big empty space that gets alluded to, but you're not always sure. So it keeps kind of some mystery to the whole world. This book takes place 3,500 years after the previous book, Children of Dune, and a lot changes in between. The Emperor Leto has created his peace, which basically is an enforced peace between the planets. He shut down the spice. Everyone has to beg him for everything. And so consequently, instead of having all this political intrigue and these houses fighting each other all the time, they kind of can't. But then that causes other problems and other interesting things. And so there's kind of a lot going on while simultaneously not a lot's going on, if you know what I mean. And so a lot of the book centers around Leto talking to people, thinking, plotting, introspecting, and it really goes to a great length to try and explain to you maybe what it's like to be this kind of alien god in the flesh creature and kind of all of the implications of that, while still trying to explain there's a very human quality about him that does suffer along the way. So it's a very it's not creating a god that's a completely impersonal god. It's a incredibly personal god-like figure in Leto as God Emperor. So that's super interesting to kind of explore. And the entire point of what Leto does and kind of the implications of this is he has this golden path, and he's trying to basically keep humanity alive because he's the only one, because of his prescient ability and all of his understanding of the past, that he's the only one that can it can basically keep humanity alive. It's it's kind of like in Avengers where there's one thread that one possible future where humanity survives and they have to kind of thread the needle to make that happen. This is kind of the same thing, but it doesn't feel nearly as heroic. It feels kind of terrible to all the people who are being kept on this golden path. While Leto has all these powers and he uses it for peace obstinately, there is a lot of conflict and there are a lot of problems because fundamentally nobody but Leto can really understand what he's doing or what it's about or how any of this is a good thing. And that's kind of where the tension in the book lies, is over time, you kind of see that Leto has given up everything, but he did that to like have his golden path and to save humanity. And so that's, you know, an amazing sacrifice in a way, but he kind of loses his humanity along the way too. So like, is it worth it? Do the ends justify the means? And I think that's kind of the point of the book. It's kind of unclear that it does. I mean, there's a very like hopeful, like humanity's going to survive. So yay. Humanity has to go through a terrible thing, and probably millions or billions of people suffer throughout that. So, you know, they probably don't think it's great. The other thing about this book that I think is fascinating is Frank Herbert explores the Messiah myth in a very interesting sort of way. Like in the first couple books, he was exploring Paul Atreides as Messiah and a kind of like Jesus-like figure, but kind of more like perfect human mixed with like, I'm going to take over the universe, mixed with I'm like God in the flesh kind of thing, like kind of all of that. And then kind of a bit of that sacrificial thing. That had the sort of like traditional Messiah kind of thing. In God Emperor, what he does with Leto is he kind of makes him into a Messiah, but not a Messiah that you would want. It's kind of an ugly, grotesque, scary, terrifying Messiah that might be doing things on your behalf that you don't really want it to do, even if it quote unquote helps you. I kind of imagine it like if our world was run by a giant computer and maybe the computer is doing the things to keep humanity alive, but it might cost you or your family or your community your lives, and you probably wouldn't like that, even if it was quote right. Definitely explores that like hero that isn't really a hero, or this is an emperor who's maybe doing good for the people as he sees it, but not that the people can see it and not that people appreciate it. And also that he's like physically ugly, and that turns Messiah on its head, which is very interesting. It reminds me a bit of Batman, The Dark Knight. He's not the hero we want, he's the hero we deserve kind of thing. There was a pivotal moment in the previous Dune books where Paul Atreides didn't want to go down the golden path because he didn't want to lose his humanity and he didn't want to basically pay the consequence, but Leto did. And that's a very kind of like stark difference between the two, good, bad, or otherwise. So that's pretty wild, and it certainly like makes you think. Overall, I enjoyed this book. I thought it was great. I enjoy the whole Dune series so far. I'm up to book 4. So I'll probably do the other book reviews too. I just happened to have finished this one, so I thought I'd make a video about it. If you have the chance, go read the book. It's excellent. God Emperor of Dune. Great book.